manslaughter in the first degree while committing a misdemeanor on or about April 11, 2021 in Hennepin County, state of Minnesota, find the defendant guilty. The verdict on count 2 is we, the jury, on the charge of manslaughter in the second degree, culpable negligence on or about April 11, 2021 in Hennepin County, state of Minnesota, find the defendant guilty.
After 4 days of deliberations, a Minneapolis jury found former officer Kim Potter guilty of first and second degree manslaughter in the shooting death of Daunte Wright back in April. Good evening, this is Making the Case. I'm Yodit Tewolde. It took a sequestered jury more than 27 hours of discussion to arrive at its verdicts. And now Potter, who's been transferred to a Minnesota correctional facility, is facing a maximum of 15 years in prison. Sentencing is scheduled for February 18th. CNN reporter Chris Nguyen is joining us live from Minneapolis. Chris, hello. What was the scene like outside of the courthouse after the guilty verdicts were read?
Yodit, good evening to you. Yes, as the verdict was being read outside the courthouse, the crowd that had been gathered on the steps erupted into cheers, and you could certainly feel a sense of relief among those folks as they absorbed the information. Inside the courthouse, however, a different scene, very emotional, as the parents of Daunte Wright held hands waiting for the jury's decision. His mother bursting into tears following the announcement that the jury had found the defendant guilty on both counts. In addition, a juror also started crying and at one point was being consoled by another member of the jury. Yodit?
Thank you so much for that report, Chris. Appreciate you. Now it's time to debrief on the latest with my team of legal experts, veteran prosecutor and BNC's legal contributor Paul Henderson and criminal defense attorneys Sam Braverman and Ryan Jones. Glad to have all three of you with me tonight. But before we get into anything, of course, I want to get reaction to these verdicts from you guys. To you first, Paul.
Well, to me, I had a big sigh of relief. I was getting really nervous over the past few days when that first question came back and they asked about not being able to come to a verdict. That caused me a lot of concern in terms of where they were headed. And so I was becoming more and more worried. As I said before, time is the enemy of big verdicts when a jury has a case. And so my first reaction was a sigh of release. And then almost immediately, I started thinking about what the implications are and what they could be for law enforcement in the future. That was my initial reaction.
Ryan, were you surprised by today's guilty verdicts?
On the first count, yes. On the second count, no. I believe that the prosecution had a hard way to go to prove that there was a misdemeanor, a crime committed during a misdemeanor. And I thought that they didn't carry the pail necessarily, but the jury found otherwise. However, with the second count, I thought that was, we have the video, we're watching it, the statements that were made, it seemed pretty clear. And I thought that would be hard for us to reach that verdict.
Sam, your reaction, please.
I originally thought that she would be, or that the facts supported a not guilty verdict. And then I also thought that she would absolutely be convicted. And like Paul, I thought she'd be convicted of the second degree count. I don't know that this is an interesting question, and I'm not sure, other than the great deference given to jury verdicts, that this necessarily stands on appeal. I'm not sure that the government made its burden in this case. Not saying how I would have voted, but I'm just thinking that I'm not sure that they sustained the burden.
Interesting. All right. Well, let's talk about how the jury reached their decision. According to the verdict sheet released this evening, jurors decided on the guilty verdict for the lesser charge of second-degree manslaughter Tuesday morning. Then, as you guys may remember, the jury sent the court a note with two questions. The first was to ask to hold the gun that Potter used to shoot Daunte, and the second asked for guidance on what to do if they couldn't reach a consensus. Jury deliberations are always, as you guys know, a mystery. We never know how jurors come to a verdict, and there's no real way of predicting an outcome. I mean, after Tuesday's note, many believed this trial was going to end in a mistrial, or given the time it took this jury to come back with something, some even thought not guilty verdicts on at least one charge, if not all of them. Paul, your thoughts on the timeline?
I mean, the timeline was really troubling for me, and I, just as you have talked to plenty of juries. After you get a verdict, this is the first thing that you want to know is figure out how they came to their verdict, what was important to them, how they decided or didn't decide on things. And so I know, as you do, that time typically is not helpful. And if things are taking a long amount of time, and keep in mind, it's not just that this took 4 days of deliberation. This is 4 days of deliberation right before Christmas. So there's a big holiday that's looming over everyone that's been addressed in the courtroom as well. So all of this is going into the deliberations with them. To me, I was becoming more and more worried about this case and about the burden of proof that the prosecution had to prove. And it seemed to me that the jury was being distracted by the emotional response from the defense. I thought they were buying the line and refocusing on whether or not a mistake had been made and not whether or not a mistake could be culpable as legally interpreted by the law and the jury instructions. That's where I thought they were drifting, and I was very concerned about the timeline. And 4 days is not a quick or easy verdict by any means. And so this was not an easily won or a slam dunk for the prosecution. And they knew that it wasn't going to be. They knew this was going to be a difficult case from the very beginning, but they pulled it through and they got the verdict that they wanted.
Sam, this was a cop who, I believe in 26 years, never killed anyone or discharged her firearm while on duty. She had an unblemished record, respected by her colleagues, and was a sympathetic witness. Where do you think the defense went wrong? Could their arguments of she made a mistake and but she would have been justified to use deadly force anyway, was that confusing to follow?
I actually think that the expert that the defense called was the error on that point. I think if they had stuck with it was a mistake and that total lack of intent. I mean, even negligence is that the failure to do what a reasonable person does, or you do what a reasonable person wouldn't do. But that still is, there's some level of science in that. It's got some level of mens rea. I think a pure mistake doesn't have that. When the defense expert was saying that she was justified to use deadly physical force, and I think most of the jurors probably thought, well, that's not true. I think that was an overstep. If she was entitled to use the taser and she made a mistake, I thought that was a better theory of defense. So I think that there is a level of nuance in there that's a little tricky, but I think that they overstepped with their expert.
Ryan, do you think they should have stuck to one side of the argument?
Yes, bouncing off of what my colleagues here have stated, looking at the nuances that existed with mistake versus negligence, I find that there's the concept of transferred intent. If you were making the mistake of grabbing your taser versus grabbing a gun, you still had the intent to grab a weapon and use it. Whether it was deadly force or not, how do you incorporate that into your findings as a jury? And there's a lot of subtext here that the jury has to grapple with. And that's a national spotlight, and that's race involved here, and a national issue of, police killings of unarmed Black people. And I think that weighed heavily into the concept of the jurors and wanting to make the right decision for where we are as a nation.
All right, we'll have more on today's verdicts with my panel of experts who will be standing by.